So what are we talking about? So fine motor skills are actual definition. Fine motor skills, skills that require control and coordination of muscles, bones, and nerves to produce small, precise movements. Okay, as our actual definitions go, this is a pretty great one, right? I kind of want to hug it because it's not so convoluted, but still, you know, we might want to take it down a notch. So our working definition of fine motor skills, which completely is lost on my screen, Kelby. That's okay. What we're talking about are the hand and finger skills. There it is. Small movements. There we go. Small movements utilizing the small muscles of the fingers, toes, wrists, lips, and tongue. So when I think about fine motor skills, especially on a school setting, you know, this is when we're going to talk about all of the things that help us to be able to write and to be able to button a button and pull up a zipper and open a bottle, turn a doorknob, right? It's these very precise things, and there's a progression that our kids work through. That when our kids are little, first we start to work on a pincer grasp, right? This is the exercise that they talk about sometimes with little kids in the high chair, where you get out the Cheerios cereal and or raisins. Raisins are another. When the child is past the age of choking, you put these on their on the tray of their high chair, and we hope that the kids will pick them up between their finger and their thumb. It's called the pincer grasp. And eventually we work up to a tripod grasp, where they're going to hold things with two fingers, because this is the precursor toward being able to write. And one of the greatest things that we do for that is to take a regular old box of crayons, any brand will do, and you peel off the labels on them and you cut them into small little pieces, so that when the child is, you know, because in the beginning when a child has a crayon, they're holding it like this, right? And that's the way they use a crayon. But if the crayon is too small to do that, it forces them into, if it's a teeny tiny little crayon, they end up having to hold it that way. Great trick that you can do to get that pincer grasp going. But think about how much stuff you do with your hands. One of the greatest things that has happened in our lifetime is the smartphone. I'm sorry, it just is. And that has had our children get more interested in using their fingers because they can swipe, right? So we find that this finger tends to be stronger in this generation than it was in previous generations, but we want them to be doing everything with their fingers. Some people in the autism spectrum have found that giving their kids a piano, even if you're not, you know, one of those little electric ones, even if you're not working on something in a way to get them to play beautiful music, it gets them playing with their fingers and strengthening those muscles. Think about, you know, when we're eating and feeding ourselves, all of those small movements, those are all the fine motor skills. When we have an OT working with our child, you will often hear them talking about, we're working on this gross motor, this fine motor, right? They're covering it all. But really important that our kids be able to be moving along that scale for the fine motor, so that we're getting to the writing skills. Because at some point, those fine motor skills are important, just absolutely essential, towards communication. Even our kids who are using augmentative devices, they're having to use fine motor skills. If you're doing PECs, it's fine motor skills, right? Eventually writing, fine motor skills. So, and we will talk next week about oral motor skills, which are sometimes included in fine motor, but in order to speak and be understood, we're using fine motor, but oral motor. All right, so that is our jargon of the day. Pretty important stuff, hand in hand with communication, fine motor skills. Now you know what we're talking about.